Welcome to Headphone News, International Edition for Thursday, November 21st, 2024.
Los Angeles City Council passes Sanctuary City Ordinance. On November 19, 2024, the Los Angeles City Council in California approved a new ordinance aimed at protecting immigrants. This ordinance prevents the use of city resources for federal immigration enforcement. The decision comes in response to concerns about mass deportations under President-elect Trump. Los Angeles is home to a significant immigrant population, with around 1.3 million residents, which represents about one-third of the city's total population. Supporters of the ordinance gathered outside City Hall to express their support for local protections. This measure is part of a broader trend, as 11 other states have also taken steps to limit cooperation with federal immigration policies.
UK inflation rises to 2.3% in October. UK inflation rose to 2.3% in October 2024, surpassing the Bank of England's target of 2%. This increase was primarily driven by higher energy costs. In September, inflation was at 1.7%. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy prices, also climbed to 3.3%. The Bank of England remains cautious about cutting interest rates due to persistent inflation pressures. The new government, led by Prime Minister Starmer, faces challenges with rising living costs and increased employment taxes. Economic forecasts indicate that inflation may reach 2.4% in November and 2.5% in December.
Russia issues warning over Ukraine conflict. On November 20th, 2024, Sergei Naryshkin, the head of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, warned Western nations about the risks of military conflict over Ukraine. He criticized the United States for allowing Ukraine to use American missiles to target Russian territory, stating that NATO countries supporting Ukraine could face serious consequences. This warning comes amid rising tensions, as President Putin has lowered the threshold for a nuclear strike. Currently, Russia controls over 110,500 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, while Ukraine holds about 650 square kilometers of Russia's Kursk region. The situation raises significant concerns about global security and economic stability.
Senator Warren urges Fed to maintain Wells Fargo's asset cap. On November 20th, 2024, Senator Elizabeth Warren called on the Federal Reserve to keep the $1.95 trillion asset cap on Wells Fargo. This limit was set in 2018 due to serious issues with the bank's risk management and compliance. In a letter to Fed Chair Jerome Powell, Warren stated that Wells Fargo must show it can effectively manage risks before any changes to the cap are considered. Recent reports revealed that the bank submitted a review of its risk management practices to the Fed in September 2024. However, Warren highlighted the need for transparency and accountability, urging the Fed to make any reviews submitted by the bank public. The letter also mentioned ongoing regulatory actions against Wells Fargo, including a recent reprimand for shortcomings in anti-money laundering practices. As the top Democrat on the Senate Banking Committee next year, Warren will play a significant role in shaping banking regulations. The future of this asset cap is critical, especially with the incoming administration expected to push for less regulation in the banking sector.
China surpasses Germany in industrial robot usage. A new report from the International Federation of Robotics shows that China has overtaken Germany in industrial robot usage. China now has 470 robots for every 10,000 workers, more than double the amount from 2019. Germany's robot density is 429 robots per 10,000 workers. South Korea remains the leader with 1,012 robots per 10,000 workers, followed by Singapore. The report emphasizes China's significant investments in automation technology. This development poses challenges for Germany, which is facing economic contraction for the second year in a row. The findings suggest that Germany needs to adapt to growing competition from China and other countries that are investing heavily in automation.
ECB warns of potential AI stock bubble. On November 20th, 2024, the European Central Bank, located in Frankfurt, Germany, issued a warning about a potential bubble in stocks tied to artificial intelligence. The bank's financial stability review pointed out various risks in the market, especially in the United States, where a few companies dominate AI investments. If these companies do not meet high earnings expectations, a sudden drop in stock prices could happen. The report also noted that many investors are holding less cash, which might lead to forced asset sales and further price declines. The European Central Bank stressed the importance of prudent financial policies, particularly in countries like Italy and France, where borrowing costs are expected to rise in the coming years.
STMicroelectronics delays financial goals. On November 20th, 2024, STMicroelectronics, a leading semiconductor company based in Montrouge, France, announced a delay in its financial targets. The company now expects to reach annual revenue of 20 billion euros, about $21.2 billion by 2030, pushing back from the previous goal of 2027. This adjustment comes after a drop in demand for industrial and automotive chips. CEO Jean-Marc Cherry noted that the rise of Chinese carmakers has significantly impacted market dynamics, along with government actions that have distorted the semiconductor industry. Despite these challenges, analysts view the company's issues as cyclical rather than structural. STMicroelectronics stock has decreased by 49% this year, with shares recently priced at 23.08 euros, about $24.50. The company also mentioned plans to reshape its manufacturing operations, although specific details on cost savings were not provided.
Senators urge action on vehicle safety regulations. On November 20, 2024, a group of 9 Democratic senators urged the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, to speed up the finalization of new vehicle safety regulations. This call to action comes after U.S. traffic deaths reached 42,915 in 2021, marking a 10.5% increase from the previous year and the highest number since 2005. Although some progress has been made, many crucial safety regulations are still pending. The senators stressed the need for immediate action to enhance road safety and reduce fatalities. They pointed out the NHTSA's obligation to implement provisions from the 2021 infrastructure law, which introduced new auto safety measures. Concerns have been raised about the slow pace of regulatory action and its impact on current safety standards.
Ontario legislation to protect newcomers from fraud. On November 20, 2024, Ontario announced plans to introduce new legislation to protect newcomers from fraud and exploitation in the immigration system. Immigration Minister Piccini pointed out the troubling trend of scammers posing as immigration representatives, deceiving vulnerable newcomers who seek help with their Ontario Immigration Nominee Program applications. These fraudsters have been known to steal life savings and provide fake documents. The proposed law will require immigration representatives to have written contracts with applicants and proof of registration. Those who fail to comply could face fines and bans. This legislation aims to enhance safety and integrity for newcomers in Ontario.
Slovakia extends electricity price cap for households. On November 20th, 2024, the Slovak government announced that it will extend the electricity price cap for households through 2025. This decision is intended to assist families in managing rising energy costs and inflation. The cap will maintain electricity prices at 61 euros per megawatt hour. This extension is expected to save households around 267 million euros. Inflation in Slovakia is forecasted to reach 5% next year, partly due to increasing energy prices. Prime Minister Fico's government is also working to address a budget deficit projected at 6% of gross domestic product for 2024.
Mexican president proposes judicial reform bills. On November 20, 2024, President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico announced plans to introduce 3 bills for judicial reform. This reform aims to allow the direct election of judges, moving away from the current appointment system. Proposed changes include establishing a 5-member judicial oversight board and launching a website for candidates to register. These reforms seek to improve transparency and accountability in the judicial system, addressing public concerns about judicial independence and corruption.
Economic concerns over proposed tariffs. Major brokerages are worried about the economic outlook for 2025 due to uncertainties linked to proposed tariffs by President-elect Trump. These tariffs could lead to volatility in global markets and rising inflation. Consequently, this situation may restrict central banks' ability to lower interest rates. Although global growth has been strong this year, brokerages recommend caution, as these developments could have significant effects on the U.S. economy and international trade.
U.S. executives brace for proposed tariffs. Executives at many U.S. companies are preparing for the potential impact of tariffs proposed by President-elect Trump. These tariffs could disrupt supply chains and increase inflation. Concerns arise that higher costs may affect consumers and the economy. Companies are assessing their strategies and supply chains in anticipation of these changes. The uncertainty around trade policies raises worries about possible retaliatory actions from other countries.
OfBusiness plans $1 billion IPO in India. OfBusiness, a shopping website backed by SoftBank, has selected 5 major investment banks to manage its upcoming initial public offering, or IPO. The company aims to raise up to $1 billion in 2025. OfBusiness supplies raw materials like steel and textiles to businesses and exports products to global clients such as Costco and Tommy Hilfiger. The Indian IPO market is booming, with 290 companies raising over $15.5 billion this year. OfBusiness intends to seek approval from India's market regulator in early 2025.
UK announces major defence budget cuts. On November 20, 2024, British Defence Minister John Healey announced a reduction in the defence budget by £500 million, approximately $633 million. This plan includes the retirement of several Royal Navy ships and helicopters. The HMS Albion and HMS Bulwark, 2 key vessels, will be retired in March 2025. These budget cuts aim to free up funds for future military needs while addressing financial pressures faced by the UK government. The changes may affect the UK's military readiness and its relationships with allies.
U.S. finalizes $1.5 billion subsidy for GlobalFoundries. On November 20th, 2024, the U.S. Commerce Department announced a $1.5 billion subsidy for GlobalFoundries, a major semiconductor manufacturer located in New York. This funding will help expand chip production in Malta, New York, and Vermont. GlobalFoundries plans to invest $13 billion over the next 10 years to improve its manufacturing capabilities. This initiative is part of the CHIPS and Science program, aimed at boosting U.S. semiconductor production for national security and economic stability. Additionally, New York State will contribute $550 million to support this expansion. This effort is expected to ensure a reliable supply of American-made chips, which are vital for industries such as automotive and aerospace.
Fog advisory causes school bus cancellations in Ontario. On November 20th, 2024, Environment Canada issued a fog advisory for the London area in southwestern Ontario. The advisory warned of dangerous driving conditions due to dense fog. Consequently, many rural school buses in Middlesex, Elgin, and Oxford counties were cancelled. Ontario Provincial Police urged commuters to drive carefully as visibility was greatly reduced. Reports indicated some accidents occurred in counties west of London. Fog patches are expected to clear by midday. Parents are advised to check for updates on school bus cancellations at mybigyellowbus.ca.
Federal Reserve governors discuss inflation and monetary policy. On November 20th, 2024, 2 Federal Reserve governors presented differing views on inflation and U.S. monetary policy. Michelle Bowman, speaking from West Palm Beach, Florida, expressed caution regarding inflation, noting that recent data indicates progress has stalled. She supports a careful approach to interest rate cuts, favoring a smaller quarter percentage point reduction rather than the half percentage point cut approved in September. In contrast, Lisa Cook, addressing an audience in Charlottesville, Virginia, expressed optimism that inflation will ease, predicting it will drop to around 2.2% next year, just above the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. The Federal Reserve is set to meet on December 17th and 18th to discuss these matters, with investors currently estimating a 55% chance of a rate cut. The differing views of Bowman and Cook highlight the challenges the Federal Reserve faces as it navigates economic uncertainties, especially following the recent presidential election, which has contributed to market volatility.
Santander UK sets aside funds for motor finance claims. On November 20th, 2024, Santander UK announced it has set aside £295 million, which is about $375 million, to cover potential costs from an investigation into motor finance commissions. A recent ruling by the Court of Appeal determined that car dealers must obtain customer consent for commissions from banks. This ruling could result in total industry costs reaching £30 billion, or about $38 billion. Other banks, including Lloyds Banking Group, are also preparing for similar expenses. Despite these challenges, Santander UK's financial position remains strong, with a Common Equity Tier 1 capital ratio of 15.4%. The provision for operational and legal costs shows the bank's commitment to addressing potential liabilities while maintaining a solid financial foundation.
Trump team considers new role for cryptocurrency policy. The team of President-elect Trump is looking into creating a new position in the White House dedicated to cryptocurrency policy. This role aims to address the growing importance of digital assets in the financial landscape. Trump has shown strong support for Bitcoin and intends to remove Gary Gensler, the chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission, known for his critical stance on cryptocurrencies. Recently, Bitcoin reached a new record high, nearing $100,000. Establishing this new role could lead to clearer regulations and encourage more investment in the cryptocurrency market.
Moldova signs security deal with Britain. On November 20, 2024, Moldova signed a new security and defense partnership with the United Kingdom. This agreement aims to bolster Moldova's defenses against external threats, especially from Russia. The signing took place after the re-election of pro-European President Sandu. British Foreign Secretary Lamy and Romanian Foreign Minister Odăbescu visited Moldova to express their support. Partnership includes a £2 million investment to improve cyber defense and a £5 million grant for health services for refugees. Moldova faces significant challenges due to Russian aggression and is seeking closer ties with the European Union.
UK pay growth steady amid economic changes. Pay awards by British employers held steady at 4% for the 3 months leading up to October 2024. This marks a decline from 6% at the end of 2023, with expectations of a further drop to 3% in 2025. A survey by Brightmind, a human resources data firm, examined 24 pay awards impacting 240,000 employees. Economic pressures from new government tax and wage policies are driving these changes. An increase in Social Security contributions is set to begin in April 2025, alongside a nearly 7% rise in the minimum wage. The Bank of England is closely watching inflation as it considers additional interest rate cuts.
China loans $690 million to Brazil's Development Bank. On November 20, 2024, the China Development Bank signed a loan agreement with Brazil's National Bank for Economic and Social Development, known as BNDES, in Brasilia. The loan totals 5 billion yuan, approximately $690 million. This deal was announced during the visit of President Xi Jinping. The funds will support various projects in Brazil and assist Brazilian exporters. This initiative aims to enhance international cooperation between China and Brazil while exploring alternatives to the US dollar in global trade.
British Columbia promotes film industry in California. A delegation from the British Columbia government visited California to promote the province as a top destination for film production. The group included Spencer Chandra Herbert, the Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport, Finance Minister Brenda Bailey, and Parliamentary Secretary for Arts and Film Nina Krieger. The purpose of the trip was to attract major film projects to British Columbia, which currently offers a 28% production services credit to filmmakers. Premier David Eby has pledged to increase this credit to 36%. The film industry in British Columbia supports over 47,500 jobs and contributed approximately $3.3 billion to the province's economy in 2022. This visit aims to enhance the province's competitive edge in the film market.
Mali's prime minister dismissed amid election delays. On November 20, 2024, Mali's prime minister Choguel Maiga was removed from office after criticizing the military junta for delaying elections promised within a 24-month transition back to democracy. The junta, which has ruled since a series of coups in 2020 and 2021, postponed elections that were set for February 2024. Maiga expressed concerns about a lack of transparency, stating he learned about the postponement through the media instead of official channels. His remarks increased tensions with the junta, leading to the cancellation of a scheduled ministerial meeting. The political landscape in Mali remains uncertain as the country continues its transition toward democratic governance.
Quebec's Indigenous Education Report highlights gaps. A new report from Quebec's Auditor General reveals significant issues in Indigenous education. The findings indicate that Quebec has not made meaningful improvements in nearly 20 years. Statistics show that over 31% of Indigenous individuals aged 24 to 35 lack a diploma or certificate, compared to just 9% of non-Indigenous individuals. The report criticizes the Quebec Ministry of Education for not establishing goals for the success of Indigenous students. Dennis Gros-Lewis, head of the First Nations Education Council, highlights that many Indigenous students encounter systemic barriers when transitioning to the public education system. The report emphasizes the need for urgent action to tackle these challenges and enhance educational outcomes for Indigenous students in Quebec.
U.S. Senate votes on military sales to Israel. On November 20, 2024, the U.S. Senate voted against a proposal to halt military sales to Israel. The vote revealed significant opposition, with 79 senators voting against the proposal and only 18 in favor. One senator chose to vote present. Senator Sanders introduced the proposal in response to concerns about human rights in Gaza, where many civilians are experiencing severe hardships. The Biden administration opposed the proposal, stressing the importance of military support for Israel in light of threats from groups like Hamas. This vote underscores the ongoing debates in U.S. politics regarding military aid and human rights.
Biden administration forgives loans to Ukraine. On November 20th, 2024, the Biden administration announced the cancellation of about $4.7 billion in loans to Ukraine. This move aims to provide economic support to Ukraine amid its ongoing conflict with Russia. The loans were part of a funding bill passed by Congress in April 2024, which allocated a total of $9.4 billion in forgivable loans. This funding is designed to assist Ukraine's government as it deals with the challenges posed by the Russian invasion that started in February 2022. The announcement comes as President Biden works to expedite aid before leaving office on January 20th, 2025. A Senate vote is expected soon on a motion to disapprove this loan forgiveness.
Germany's tax revenue increases amid economic concerns. Germany's tax revenue rose by 8.2% in October 2024, reaching 60.9 billion euros. Or about $64.11 billion US dollars. This increase continues a positive trend for the year, with a total rise of 3.3% from January to October. However, the economy faces challenges, including an unexpected rise in inflation and a projected contraction of 0.2% for 2024. The collapse of the ruling coalition adds uncertainty to the economic outlook. Concerns also grow over potential trade impacts if tariffs on imports from the European Union increase, which could significantly affect German exports.
U.S. dollar strengthens amid market changes. On November 21st, 2024, the U.S. dollar demonstrated strong performance as traders look for clarity on President-elect Trump's economic policies. The dollar index, which measures the currency against others, neared a one-year high of 107.07, reflecting an increase of over 2% since the presidential election on November 5th. Market analysts suggest that Trump's policies could lead to rising inflation, which may influence decisions by the Federal Reserve. The likelihood of a rate cut by the Fed in December has decreased to just under 54%. The euro remains stable at about 1.05 US dollars, while the Japanese yen traded at 154.91 yen per US dollar. Bitcoin reached a record high of $95,016, fueled by expectations of more favorable regulations under Trump's administration. These shifts in currency values could significantly affect trade and inflation in the months ahead.
That is all the news for today. Thank you for listening to today's headphone news. News summary brought to you by AI.